The conference room fell silent as Sarah Winters, CEO of Pinnacle Tech, uttered those final words, "Marcus, we're letting you go." What happened in the next 48 hours would not only change both their lives forever but would reveal a truth about business that few ever discover. Stay with me until the end. I promise this story will change how you think about success, second chances, and what truly matters in both business and life. If you find value in stories of redemption and unexpected triumph, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more life-changing narratives. Marcus Chen stared at the termination papers, his hands trembling slightly. Not from anger, but from fear. As a single father to 8-year-old Lily, losing his job as Pinnacle Tech's head of innovation wasn't just a career setback, it was potentially catastrophic. "I understand," he said quietly, though he didn't. After 5 years of dedication, countless late nights, and 3 major product launches that had saved the company millions, he was being discarded like yesterday's technology. Sarah Winters maintained her professional demeanor, but something flickered behind her steel blue eyes, perhaps doubt? Regret? She'd rehearsed this speech with the board repeatedly. Pinnacle needed restructuring. Cuts had to be made. Marcus's department was deemed non-essential in the current economic climate. "Your severance package is generous," she added, sliding another document across the polished mahogany table. 3 months' salary, extended health benefits. Marcus nodded mechanically. "May I ask why?" "My team has consistently exceeded targets." Sarah's perfectly manicured fingers tapped against her tablet. "The board feels we need to focus on immediate revenue streams rather than long-term innovation projects." It's nothing personal, Marcus. But it was personal to him. Very personal. As he packed his belongings into a cardboard box, family photos, his daughter's crayon drawings taped to his monitor, 5 years of memories, Marcus couldn't help but think of Lily. How would he tell her? How would he pay for her asthma medication without insurance? The mortgage on their small house? Across the building, Sarah was already in another meeting, presenting the restructuring plan to shareholders. Pinnacle Tech had been struggling for months. The stock was down, competitors were advancing, and the board was breathing down her neck. Cutting the innovation department had been a calculated decision, painful but necessary. Or so she thought. Marcus drove home in silence, the cardboard box on his passenger seat a stark reminder of his new reality. He'd have to pick up Lily from her after-school program soon, put on a brave face, and somehow explain that Daddy didn't have a job anymore. But they'd be okay. They always were, ever since her mother had passed away 3 years ago. He pulled into his driveway and sat there, gathering strength. His phone buzzed, a text from his former colleague, Raj. "Did you hear? The Meridian contract is in trouble. They're threatening to pull out." Marcus frowned. Meridian Technologies was Pinnacle's biggest client. Their partnership represented nearly 40% of the company's annual revenue. Losing them would be devastating. Before he could respond, another text came through, something about the security protocols not meeting their new requirements. Sarah's in panic mode. Marcus set his phone down. Not his problem anymore. He had to focus on finding a new job, on keeping his little family afloat. Yet something nagged at him. The Meridian security protocols were part of a project he'd been developing. A project that had just been terminated along with his employment. Inside his modest home, Marcus tried to distract himself by preparing Lily's favorite dinner, mac and cheese with little hot dog pieces cut into stars. She'd need comfort food when he broke the news. As he cooked, his mind kept returning to the Meridian problem. He knew exactly what was happening and, more importantly, how to fix it. When Lily came home, her backpack almost as big as she was, Marcus's heart swelled with love and determination. Her smile, missing 2 front teeth, was his whole world. "Daddy! I got a gold star in math today," she announced, proudly displaying a worksheet covered in dinosaur stickers. "That's amazing, sweetheart." He knelt down to hug her. I always knew you were a math genius. Over dinner, he gently explained that he wouldn't be going to his office anymore, carefully framing it as a change rather than a loss. Lily's brow furrowed with the seriousness only an 8-year-old could muster. Are we going to be poor? She asked bluntly. Marcus nearly choked on his mac and cheese. No, honey. We have savings, and I'll find another job soon. We might need to be careful with money for a little while, but we'll be fine. Can I still go to space camp this summer? The question pierced his heart. Space camp, Lily's dream. The deposit alone was nearly $1,000. We'll see, he said, the universal parent response when the true answer might be too painful. After tucking Lily in with 2 bedtime stories, he couldn't say no to just one more. Tonight, Marcus sat at his kitchen table with his laptop. Out of habit, he checked his work email, surprised to find he still had access. His inbox was flooded with panicked messages about the Meridian situation. Apparently, Meridian had discovered a potential security vulnerability in Pinnacle's system, exactly what Marcus's team had been working to prevent with their next-generation encryption protocol. The project that had been deemed non-essential this morning was suddenly the company's most pressing need. Marcus closed his laptop. Not his problem anymore. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Marcus. Sarah Winter's voice was unmistakable, but different, strained, urgent. We need to talk. I believe we said everything necessary this morning, Ms. Winters. A pause. Please. It's about Meridian. Marcus glanced at the ceiling, where Lily was sleeping just above. I'm listening. They're threatening to cancel their contract. Something about security protocols not meeting their updated requirements. Yes, I'm aware. That was part of Project Firewall, the non-essential innovation my team was developing. Another pause, longer this time. Can you come in tomorrow? Just to consult. We'll pay you, of course. Marcus leaned back in his chair, a strange feeling washing over him. Not satisfaction, exactly. Not vindication. Something more complex. I'm sorry, but I need to focus on finding a new position. My daughter depends on me. Marcus, please. The polished CEO facade cracked, revealing something he'd never heard from Sarah Winters before: desperation. If we lose Meridian, Pinnacle could go under. Hundreds of people will lose their jobs. I'm begging you. The words hung in the air between them. Sarah Winters, the woman who had fired him hours ago, was begging for his help. I'll think about it, he said finally, ending the call. That night, Marcus barely slept. He thought about his colleagues at Pinnacle, many of them friends, people with families of their own. He thought about the project his team had been developing, how close they'd been to completion. And he thought about what he would teach Lily through his actions. Morning came too quickly. After dropping Lily at school with extra tight hugs, Marcus drove to a coffee shop near Pinnacle's headquarters. He ordered a large black coffee and opened his personal laptop. For the next 2 hours, he worked, not for Pinnacle, but on his own terms. By the time he finished, he had a comprehensive proposal and a decision. At precisely 10 a.m., he walked into Pinnacle's lobby. The receptionist's eyes widened. Mr. Chen. We weren't expecting you. I have a meeting with Ms. Winters, he said calmly. Sarah was waiting in her office, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept either. The board members were there too, grim-faced and tense. Marcus, thank you for coming, Sarah said, rising to greet him. We're prepared to offer you a consulting contract to resolve the Meridian situation. Marcus set his laptop on the conference table. I'm not interested in a consulting contract. The room tensed. Sarah's expression faltered. I've prepared a proposal, he continued, opening his laptop and connecting it to the display screen. Project Firewall can be completed within 3 weeks, in time to satisfy Meridian's requirements and save the contract. Relief washed over the faces around the table. However, Marcus continued, I won't be doing this as a consultant. I want my job back, not just my job, but an expanded innovation department with guaranteed funding for the next 2 years. And I want a seat on the board. The CEO's mouth opened in shock. Marcus, that's not negotiable, he finished for her. Additionally, I want a comprehensive review of all recent terminations. Anyone let go from my department gets offered their position back. And finally, I want Pinnacle to establish a childcare center on site for employees with families. The board members exchanged glances. The CFO leaned forward. That's completely unreasonable. The childcare center alone would cost less than losing Meridian, Marcus interrupted. Less than what you'll lose when your remaining talent leaves for companies that understand the value of supporting working parents. Sarah studied him with new eyes. This wasn't the same Marcus Chen who had quietly accepted his termination yesterday. This was someone who knew his worth. May we have the room, please? She asked the board members. Reluctantly, they filed out. When they were alone, Sarah sighed deeply. You could have named your price as a consultant. Why this? Marcus closed his laptop. Because Pinnacle doesn't need a quick fix. It needs a fundamental change in how it values innovation and people. And the childcare center? When my wife died, the hardest part wasn't grief, it was figuring out how to be both a parent and a professional. No one should have to choose. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I didn't know about your wife. I'm sorry. There's a lot you don't know about your employees, Sarah. That's part of the problem. Another silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken understanding. The board won't like it, she said finally. The board won't like bankruptcy either. A hint of a smile touched Sarah's lips. When did you become so ruthless? I'm not being ruthless. I'm being a father who can't afford to fail. 3 weeks later, Project Firewall launched successfully. Meridian not only maintained their contract but expanded it. Pinnacle's stock rose 15% in a single day. The on-site childcare center opened 2 months after that. Marcus was there for the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Lily proudly at his side. Sarah stood nearby, watching the families with a new perspective. You were right, she admitted quietly to Marcus. About everything. He nodded. Sometimes we need to lose something to understand its value. Is that what you learned when your wife passed away? That, and something more important. Marcus smiled as Lily ran off to explore the new playground. I learned that success means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with. Sarah considered this, watching the children play. I've been so focused on quarterly reports and stock prices that I forgot what companies are really made of, people. People with lives and families and dreams. It's not too late to remember, Marcus said. 6 months after being fired, Marcus Chen sat in his first board meeting as Pinnacle's new Chief Innovation Officer. The company had transformed, not just financially, but culturally. Employee retention was up. Productivity had increased. The childcare center had a waiting list. And every morning, when Marcus dropped Lily off at the center before heading to his office, he remembered that day when everything had changed, when losing his job had ultimately led to saving not just his career, but an entire company's soul. As for Sarah Winters, she learned perhaps the most valuable lesson of all, that true leadership isn't about making tough decisions in boardrooms, but about recognizing the humanity in business. Sometimes, the person you're letting go might be the very one you need most. If this story touched you, remember that second chances and recognizing true value, both in business and in life, can change everything. Like and subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters in our journey through this world. Sometimes, our greatest setbacks lead to our most meaningful comebacks.